If you're working with a storage administrator, have the administrator test the cluster with your guidance. Otherwise, you need to access the customer environment to perform tests. Document the entire process as proof of functionality. Your testing should include writing and reading files, using every protocol the customer has purchased. A thorough and successful test includes reading and writing files while in failover mode. Include testing documentation with your reporting process to close out an installation. When verifying the cluster, you should be able to send a ping, for example, to the gateways on the management ports and on the data ports. The expected response is that the port is alive. If you receive a different response, check the cabling and any switch configuration. To access NetApp ONTAP System Manager, type the Cluster Management LIF IP address in a browser. If you see a security message, click Continue to this website. When prompted, enter the cluster administrator credentials and then click Sign In. By default, the Cluster Details window is displayed. Verify that no Event Management System or Health Monitor messages indicate serious issues. This example shows that no licenses are available, so you need to address this issue before proceeding with the configuration. Currently, the data aggregates and lifts that show an alert are not an issue because those elements have not yet been configured. If you click in the Disk Details box, the interface switches to the Hardware and Diagnostics menu showing the drive subsection. Click each of the items listed in the Hardware and Diagnostics menu to be sure that you do not miss anything. Click Events to see the event log. You can scroll through or filter entries. In this example, NetApp ActiveIQ Config Advisor pointed out an error with drive pathing. You can filter for SAS and retrieve a list of associated entries. The Details section has information that can help you fix the problem. When the cabling is corrected, these messages are no longer logged. The list of cluster settings is another area that you must check during an installation. You can verify and set the cluster name, edit the DNS configuration, and create the cluster management LIF. You can also use this tab to configure the Baseboard Management Controller, or BMC, and any required cluster peers. Although you use the CLI to verify the high availability or HA setting, System Manager provides an image of the nodes with visual verification that high availability is configured correctly. The dashboard indicated that no licenses are installed on this cluster. To install the licenses, select the Licenses option and then click Add. The ONTAP software must be updated manually before you configure the cluster. System Manager provides an option to do so and guides you through the steps of a non-disruptive update. The date and time that are set in the cluster are important. You can set the date and time in System Manager. You can use the System Manager Configurations tab to configure many necessary parameters. The date and time must be set correctly for the cluster. In System Manager, click the Configurations tab. Then, from the Cluster Settings menu, select Date and Time. Click Edit, and then enter the correct values for time zone and time servers. Alternatively, you can use the CLI to configure Network Time Protocol (NTP) servers. Use the Cluster Time Service NTP Server Create command to add a time server. You can add as many as 10 servers. To display the entry, use the Cluster Time Service NTP Server Show command. ONTAP software must be updated before you configure the cluster. After the initial configuration is completed, you can use System Manager to update the firmware. First, download the new ONTAP image to a server that the system can access. From the Cluster Settings submenu, select Cluster Update, and then enter the URL of the image location. Click Add to start the file transfer. A confirmation message states that the software image has been added. After the transfer is completed, select the image that you want to load. More than one image might be available if a previous update occurred. At the bottom of the window, click Next. The system is ready to be validated to verify that nothing will impair the update process. Click Validate. The validation runs for a few minutes. The validation might finish with errors. Correct the errors as instructed. If the warnings report no errors that affect the update, you can proceed. This recommendation is to update an entire cluster. This action prevents nodes from running different versions that might not all support the same features. Select the Update the Entire Cluster checkbox, and then click Update. If you understand the implication of the warning about the cluster management LIF, click OK. The update process starts. The progress window updates throughout the process. If you click either node name in the table, the status details for that node are displayed in the lower section of the table. You can log into the console of the node that you're upgrading to monitor progress. In the example, you can see that this node is transitioning from 9.0 RC1 to 9.0 RC2. When the node reboots, it displays the Waiting for Giveback message and then stops at the login prompt. When the first node reboots, the partner node reboot starts. You can observe the reboot in the System Manager window and on the console of the partner node. As with the first node, the partner goes through the giveback steps after booting from the new firmware partition. When both the nodes in the cluster have been updated and rebooted, the cluster version details on the Cluster Update tab indicate that both nodes are now at the new version. Click the Update History tab to verify that both nodes have been updated successfully and to display a list of previous and current software versions. From the Cluster Settings menu, select High Availability to see a graphical display of the status of the cluster. In this example, the cluster is healthy, but there is a warning about LIFs that are not on their home node. To fix this problem, use CLI commands, or in System Manager, click the Network tab, and then click the Network Interfaces tab. The LIF that is not home has a red tag. Select that line, and then click the Send to Home button to correct the error. After all the LIF or other warnings are corrected, the cluster is back to normal operation at the new firmware version. You might have the customer alongside while you perform this testing. If so, they are fully aware that the system is functional. If not, you need to ensure that they understand what you tested and why, and that the test results are good. An important step is to tell your customer that they are responsible for changing the passwords on the systems and switches that you installed.